Let me tell you, like I said before, she is working her tail off. She is just working. So I'm sure when November rolls around, she's going to appreciate the rest.
And thank you, Rick, and the Gun Rights Coalition, and everyone that helped organize this, because this was one less thing I had to do. So it's great. I just had to show up. So I just want everyone to know that I'm not somebody from Virginia headquarters. I am actually a Washington State resident who read this initiative and was shocked. And as soon as I could, I started calling around asking the Second Amendment Foundation, asking the NRA, what are you guys going to do about this? And then I realized I need to do something about it. Okay? So I started volunteering, and I talked myself into this job, and I'm sure you'll figure that out why when we're done here today. So initially 594 was billed as just background checks on private sales, and then we called them on it. We said, no, there's transfers in here. They said, okay, fine, transfers. The fact is, folks, if this was just background checks on private sales, I don't think there'd be a no campaign. I don't think anyone would be kicking and screaming. Law-abiding citizens go through background checks all the time. I'm a member of the Washington Arms Collectors. I go through a background check. I volunteer at my school. I go through a background check. Law-abiding citizens are not worried about background checks. Okay. 98%, over 98% of people that go through background checks, they pass. And of the less than 2% that don't, those are delays and denials. So a lot of the delays are you have a common name, right? John A. Smith. There's other John A. Smiths that might have a felony record. Okay? You have to prove who you are, then you get through the background check. So let's take some figures and see how effective background checks really are. Okay? In 2011, there were about 780,000 background checks done across the United States. About 80,000 were delayed or denied. Out of that 80,000, 4,500 went to ATF field offices for further investigation for lying on a federal form. How many do you think were prosecuted? And I know some, no, more than three. More than three.
7.
More than 7. Okay, nobody wins the orange hat. It was 13. Okay, 13 across the United States. When the proponents of 594 say that background checks, since they were started in 1998, it stopped 40,000 people in Washington State from getting a firearm, I would like to know, where were the convictions? Where are they incarcerated? Okay, they're not. So the fact is, this is just going to be criminalizing lawful behavior and not changing criminal behavior. The criminals are not going to wake up on November 5th and say, oh my gosh, we just passed a new background law, and so let's run down and get a background check before we do this deal where I'm going to trade some crack for that stolen gun you have. And oh gosh, we need to go register that with the Department of Licensing. Okay, not going to happen. That's why law enforcement is so opposed to 594. All it's going to do is take scarce law enforcement resources away from actually fighting crime to hire support staff to do background checks on generally law-abiding citizens. Okay? And it's not going to stop Joe Blow, who just got out of prison, from going and doing some drug deal in the backyard, stealing a firearm, going through a straw purchase. We know what that is, don't we? Where someone that can pass a background check, paid off by a criminal, gets a firearm, and then the criminal has a gun. How is 594 going to stop that? It's not. In fact, it'll probably make it more common. This is so confusing. And it is 16. I was saying 18 pages. I guess my font was bigger on my printer than I thought. So 16 pages. It's so confusing that law-abiding citizens are going to be entrapped. They're going to break the law without even trying to break the law. Because let me give you an example. So the same person you can give a gift to, your mother, your brother, your sister, your uncle, your grandparents, I think up to your first cousins, you can't loan or sell that firearm to. So let me give you an example of what's going to happen if you want to loan your shotgun to your brother who, oh wait, by the way, he's a cop. Okay, so you're pretty sure he's not a felon. You're going to have to take that gun to a dealer. Dealer's going to take it into their inventory. Listen to that language. Take it into their inventory. Okay? Charge you a fee. Do a background check. Now, there's another law, RCW 19.60.055, that talks about secondhand goods being held for 30 days when they're taken into inventory. Eventually your brother gets the shotgun, hopefully during duck hunting season, and then he can't just give that firearm back to you. He has to take it to the dealer. Dealer takes it into inventory, charges a fee, does a background check on you, holds it for 30 days, and eventually you get your gun back. Now tell me, what does that have to do with reducing crime? Because you could give a bona fide gift to your brother, but you can't loan or sell that firearm. That's going to be confusing for people. We talked about the range exemption. The range exemption was very interestingly crafted. But the fact is, because they left out a couple of little words, like while at the range, and they only talked about the firearm remains at all times at the range, and not the transferor and the transferee. Okay? That's going to confuse and entrap people. Now, whether that's unenforceable, who knows? The fact is, what we need you to do now, okay, obviously you're interested in this subject. You're passionate about it. What you need to do is take that passion, take this enthusiasm, and translate that into votes. Okay? Because just like Rick said, the only vote that is not going to count during this election is the vote you don't cast. So you need to talk to your friends. You need to talk to your family. I have, go to the Vote No 594 website. There's a video there you can share. It's a 7-minute video, very powerful. It's about the grassroots effort that we're having in Washington State. It's got 2 of our first county sheriffs that signed on, Sheriff Ozzie and Sheriff Allen from Eastern Washington, talking about why they oppose 594. Now, if law enforcement opposing this doesn't convince your friends, tell them to read it. Take the time to read it. And get a highlighter and take notes, because it's going to take you a while. This is not going to stop crime. This is about registration, and registration throughout history has always led to confiscation. Now, some people are going to say to you, well, what's wrong with registering your guns? We have to register our cars.
Yeah, but I can have an automatic car.
You can have an automatic car. No, the fact is, when has the government ever come in and confiscated your car? If you're a law-abiding citizen, okay? Maybe if you have a DUI, a vehicular homicide. The fact is, they've never done that. But they have confiscated firearms, and it's happened here in the United States. We don't have to go back to Russia. We don't have to go to Cambodia. We don't have to go to Germany. We can go to, New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. Okay? What did they do? They went to the registered, law-abiding citizens' homes and confiscated their firearms after Hurricane Katrina under the guise of an emergency order, which, of course, left the criminals with firearms, right? California, they decided they didn't like what I call ugly guns. They don't like assault weapons, which are less powerful than your daddy's .30-06 deer hunting rifle. Okay? But they didn't like the looks of them. They had people register them. Then they went and confiscated them. It happened in New York. They tried it in Connecticut, but that didn't work out very well because most of the police didn't register their ugly guns and didn't want to go door to door to confiscate firearms. So we all know that there is a lot more behind this. Maybe somewhere somebody has good intentions. Well, if it just saves one life, that's their mantra now. Well, you know what? If it just saves one life, I went home, talked to teenage boys and said, boys, what could we ban that would save one life? First thing they started with was automobiles.
5-gallon bucket.
What?
5-gallon bucket.
5-gallon buckets. More children die drowning in 5-gallon buckets than are ever killed by gun violence. So the fact is, we need to do everything we can. We need to educate people. We need to get people to vote. We got to make sure that they're voting no on 594. And you know what? I have been thrilled and my heart has been warmed by all the grassroots efforts. When I see handmade signs, when I see someone standing out sign waving on the corner, it's just wonderful. It just makes my heart leap. And I really hope that you guys will take signs, take some materials, contact me. If you want some electronic documents, you can email. There's a lot of things you can do. We need to start making phone calls, making sure that people are getting out to vote and that they know to vote no on 594. So thank you guys so much for coming, taking your Saturday. Thank you, Rick.